Is this market currently trapped in some sort of confusion and delusion, or are we just pricing everything in perfectly as we should? That's kind of the overall question here that we have been asking ourselves for the past week or so. Just with all this crazy action that we have been having, it seems like the correlation between the Nasdaq and the S&Ps has grown wider. It seems that as though the Mag 7 are just kind of off and doing their own things now. So it's kind of a crazy market in here. The rotation we're getting with the sell-offs, with the memory and anything AI. Is everything kind of coming back to life? Is everything being priced in correctly? Or are we just kind of resetting in here and getting a nice rotation into some strong earnings that we've had so far this week? That is the overall question. But right now, we're going to look at the VIX in here on the weekly chart. You would feel like with the pullback that we have been having in here in the NASDAQ, and especially the pullback in the overall markets today, you would think the VIX is probably 20, 21, 23, somewhere up there, but we're still trading down here below 17. So we did have a 7% pop in here on the day for the VIX, but it still feels like it should be way higher. To the upside in here, what we're looking at for the VIX, 1793 and $18 flat. That's going to be our two levels in here. That's that 200 and the 50-day SMA. We need some sort of separation from both of these moving averages. They've been trading and holding together for quite some time. We need to get all these moving averages separated away from each other, whether that's a big rip to the upside in here, big rip to the downside, what have you. But we cannot stay here with this consolidation in here. Obviously, the VIX is more of a dictator in here of the volatility of the overall market. So we're not really technically bound to any moving averages or support and resistances in here in the VIX, but still overall on the chart, just kind of a brief look in here, a kind of quick overview, is that we want to see those moving averages start to separate, and then we can get an idea on better direction in the overall markets. We had a rotation, obviously, out of memory in here for the past few days. We're going to take a look at Micron in here. You can see big breakout out here to the downside of this overall structure on the weekly chart, little gap down in here, and then just kind of completing that overall confirmation of a breakdown in here below the 9-day EMA. We're below 900. We're below 1,000, obviously. So going forward, what are we looking at in here on the weekly chart? Well, we are watching that 864. We're right below that right now. That's going to be our first major resistance. I know that when we had that pop in here today, we traded in the 840 handles, and then we had that little pop there late in the day, and that kind of ran us up to that lower 860 range, and then we ended up selling off going into close. So that is going to be our first resistance in here. Outside of there, we're looking at the 9-day EMA sitting at 910, and then we're looking at 981 and then 1,000. To the downside in here, though, we are looking at 818 and then 750, and your RSI is slowly coming back down in here. You can see we're overbought for quite some time, finally coming back down to life in here, sitting at 59. We are slowly getting ourselves reset in here to neutral. We're also going to look at SanDisk in here. When you talk about Micron, you always have to talk about SanDisk. These stocks have been trading and correlating together basically 1-to-1 in here. Obviously, SanDisk is at a much higher price. 13% drop in here on the day, kind of the same overall structure on our chart in here. What are we looking at as far as supports and resistances? 1478 to the upside, followed by that is going to be 1600 to the downside in here, 1315, and then we are watching that 1309. So in between all of those, kind of keep an eye on nice whole numbers to see if they are going to kind of set up some sort of intraday floors and ceilings for us in here. But if not, we're focusing mainly on those. And the RSI is actually getting reset more in SanDisk in here on the weekly chart rather than Micron. So that is something that we have to take note of as well. So if we do get some sort of turn in here, look for Micron and SanDisk to kind of pop sharply, just because of the volatility that's all built into these, and especially just because they're large stocks as far as price goes, and you're going to get a bigger move in here to the upside if you do get some sort of pop in here to the overall kind of upside in here. So that's what we're looking at in Micron and SanDisk. Again, the VIX, it feels like it should be way higher than what it is. So that is the only thing that's kind of worrisome as we're going into Trump's speech tonight and things like that. Any obviously bad geopolitical news should spike the VIX, which is going to bring down the markets. Obviously, anything opposite, then the VIX should pull back with the markets kind of rising. So we're going to see what happens in here. But all in all, we'll take it. we'll take this volatility that we're getting in the markets. We're getting this rotation. Apple just kind of killed it today. So still, obviously, we had that breakout on our overall structure yesterday. Today, continuation, although they did try to sell it off there on that first baby pop that happened at the beginning of the day. But overall, nice little moves in here. We're going to see what happens. And as we continue throughout this week, and we're going to see kind of buckle up for what Trump may or may not say that's going to move the markets in here tonight and into tomorrow. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you are interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.